This is the Ezra Walk and Talk, and we are talking Lomachenko versus Devin Haney, or Devin Haney versus Lomachenko, however the hell you want to phrase that. Now, I am the best judge on boxing Twitter. Everyone knows it. They may not like it, but everyone knows it. Because what I give you is not only who I feel won the fight, but I give you a range of scores that I think deem acceptable. Stepping on my damn dog's toys. That I deem acceptable, and that what the judges can be seen, right? That the rounds that are they're so close that you can argue either way, right? And you have to do that. Now I understand, because people could feel one guy won the fight, right? But you have to acknowledge swing rounds. You have to, because boxing is the way it's judged, the way it's scored, right? If you don't acknowledge swing rounds, then you're not acknowledging that this fight can have a different story than what you're seeing, not the exact story that you're seeing. So when it comes to Devin Haney versus Lomachenko, I scored it for Lomachenko. I thought Lomachenko won 7-5. That was a very close fight, very tight fight, and I thought there was multiple swing rounds. So I had it 7-5 Lomachenko. I thought it could have been, at best for Lomachenko, 8-4. For Devin Haney, I thought it could have been 7-5 for Devin Haney. So my range is 8-4 Lomachenko to 7-5 Devin Haney. That's my range of score, of acceptable score. That's how tight this fight is, that it can swing like that. And if you don't understand that, and if the broadcast team isn't explaining that to you, they're not giving you the what the range could be and how close these rounds are, it's going to lead to a lot of confusion. And it's going to lead to a lot of anger, right? Everyone's watching this fight and they're just kind of going off what they're scoring, right? What the storyline is to them, but not going off of what the storyline could possibly be for everyone that's looking at the fight and for the three judges. A lot of times too, when you have a fight like this, they had more buzz than I originally thought it would have, right? Because this fight seemed to have everyone watching it because everyone was talking about the scorecard. When you get really casual fans, don't watch boxing all the time, right? Ain't watching like I'm watching, right? Ain't watching like a lot of hardcores are watching. Ain't scoring fights commonly. They're not really scoring it round by round. They're scoring off a feel, right? So they're watching the fight and they're feeling this guy's up. And that feel can come from a lot of numerous things. One big round, right? Out of the first 6 rounds, one big round for a guy gets hurt, they feel like, well, he's winning the fight because he has those moments. 2 big moments. But if you're scoring it round by round, it might be a completely different story. But if you're just going off a feel of who you feel's winning the fight because of these big moments, you could easily be swayed to think this guy's winning. Now, what this fight's, the story I told, that Lomachenko won the second half of the fight. That's the way I scored it. And he had the big 11th, he had the big 10 and 11th round. And on just feel alone, the last thing you saw, you have to feel like Lomachenko took control of this fight. So he must be ahead in the scorecards, but that's not the way it works because boxing is judged round by round. So I think that the feel of it felt like Lomachenko at the end. Whether you scored it for him, you didn't, or whatever, just the feel of it felt like it was going in Lomachenko's direction. I think that the broadcast team did a bad job of explaining what was happening in the fight, the storylines that happened in the fight, what the fight could have been scored like, how tight this fight actually was, and the way that the scores could be all over the place. It definitely wasn't a robbery. A robbery is one guy clearly won, and he won 7 rounds clear as day. Could not give it to the other guy. And he still loses the fight in the scorecard. That's a robbery, right? This wasn't a robbery. This was just a close fight. And close fights, I've been preaching this forever, are not robberies. They just are a fight that could go to any person. And that fight could have won to any person. Or the 2 guys could have won for any of them. How do we fix this going forward? It's kind of like up to the broadcast team to educate fans, right, as they're watching it. One of the ideas I was thinking was maybe after the 6th round, announce the scores of what the actual judges have. That way, because the boxing fights are so long, right, it might be an attention span problem where people watch the first 6 rounds and they're going to watch the next 6 rounds. They're going to kind of forget what happened in the first 6 rounds. So you could bookmark the fight at the end of the 6 rounds. And why I chose the 6th round is because a guy could be up 6 rounds, but it doesn't necessarily mean that the other guy is out of the fight. So you couldn't say that he's just going to run for the next 6 rounds, Or you couldn't say that this guy's just going to give up because he still has 6 rounds where he can still turn the fight around with 6 rounds. He can still tie the fight. He can still, it's enough time to go and break this guy down. This guy can't just run because he's only up 6 rounds, which he can, still give up the draw, basically, right? If he gets knocked down, could give up the loss. So I think the 6th round, the one time they announce the score, so you just know, bookmark, this is where we're at in the first half of the fight. Now, that's the scoring and how we fix that. That's going to be a constant thing in boxing, especially because boxing doesn't have a lot of returning fans. They're not week to week. They're not consistent with it. So when it's a brand new restart and people aren't really into it and diving into it, it's I don't know. It's hard to explain. It's kind of like if you're a fan of Game of Thrones and then people that don't watch Game of Thrones all the time, they just jump in on season 3. Episode 6, and they watch just that one episode, and you're trying to explain to them well, this is this and this, and this is why they're doing that, and they're not going to watch it anymore going forward, and they're not going to watch it going back. They might come back in season 6 for another episode, but they're going to be the most vocal, outraged people in the world, and they're going to put it all out there that this is a robbery, and this is why Game of Thrones sucks and all that. But they haven't been watching this whole time. They don't know why this actually makes sense. They don't understand. This is the way that Game of Thrones is filmed, and this is the way that the Game of Thrones storyline is going. That's exactly what's happening here. So I think that's on the broadcast team. It's a hard job, but they got to consistently do it, and especially in big fights. Another thing that really bothered me as far as I scored for Lomachenko, and I was talking to a lot of people that scored for Devin Haney, and I want to know what they were looking at, right? Why did they score for Devin Haney? Why did they feel like it was a sure thing for Devin Haney? I heard a lot of interesting things on as far as certain styles they look for. As far as Lomachenko's punches didn't seem like they were that hard, right? They didn't seem like they were doing that much damage. It kind of seemed like it was pitter-patter with his shots. And I kind of want to go against that, right? I think there's only one way to judge a fight. And I think that's just on whoever lands the most clean and effective punches. That's it. I don't think you need anything else. Anything other than that is going to confuse it. It doesn't make any sense. There's just nothing that could really override clean and effective punching. And I find, and I judge a lot of fights when I watch them, that you rarely get a chance. I mean, it really hasn't happened to me this year or last year, where I watch a fight and I just can't even pick a winner between the two guys. There's always, at the end of every round, I kind of know who I thought won that round. Like I said, I understand. I'll mark it when I feel like it's close and could be debated either way, but I'll have a pick on who I thought won the round. And I don't think you can judge on what shots are hard and what shots aren't, right? Oh, that shot looks like it hurts and that one doesn't. The hell, you don't know. And you want me to prove that you do not know? Because I know for personal experience of being in the ring that you do not know what shots hurt and what shots don't. But want me to prove to you that you don't know? When Tank dropped Ryan to the body, people said that was fake. They said that he really didn't land and that he took a dive. And this happens a lot. You'll see, oh, the guy just took a dive. Look at that punch, that didn't even land that hard. And they'll do this in super slow motion. You can put this in the slowest motion ever. Look at that, didn't really land. That was actually fake. He didn't really touch him. And the guy's knocked out cold. Ryan Garcia's right there, can't breathe on the floor. The other guys are hit the top of the head, put to sleep. And guys will tell you with a straight face that shot really didn't land. So you're going to trust these people to tell you what shots are harder in the ring from one guy or another. They do not know. They do not know. I've been hit with shots that look ferocious. People ask me after, man, how bad was that shot? And I didn't feel a damn thing. And I've hit with shots that look like nothing. This guy's not putting anything on him. And I'm like, I don't want to get hit by this guy ever again. You do not know. I promise you. You cannot judge a fight on that. Don't over confuse it. Judge the fight on who's ever landing the clean and effective punches. This was a great fight, a fantastic fight. I think Devin Haney showed me that he was as good as I thought he could be. He might even be better than I thought. And Lomachenko showed me that he is still on the top of his game. And I don't think there were any losers coming out of this fight. I still think Lomachenko's a top guy in 135 pounds. I think Haney's going to 140 as a top guy in boxing. Loma could go to, if Loma can make 130, I would love to see it. If Loma could fight Shakur, I'd love to see it. If Haney can go, stays top rank and fights their top guys at 140, I'd love to see it. And if he goes to, I don't know, to region, goes and fights Ryan, big fight, good buzz, I'd love to see it. And if he goes to fight Tank, of course, that's to me like the dream scenario of all this plays out. This was great for boxing. This fight had a way more buzz than I ever thought it would. I do not believe it was a robbery. I don't think people know what a robbery is anymore. I think any close fight that didn't go the way that you scored it is a robbery. And I think that people don't know how to score these fights. Now I'm talking about even die-hard boxing fans. I don't think they know how to score these fights. Just score it, no matter if the guy's going forward, backwards, sideways, whatever the hell he's doing. Whoever's landing the most clean and effective shots, he's winning the fight. He's winning the rounds, he's winning the fight. Deuces.